Kyra Wilson.
Tonight, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs elect a new Grand Chief.
Often, it feels hopeless, but I feel hopeful that there is a table dedicated to solely focusing on the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
The third annual meeting into the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls took place in Ottawa today.
Today we gather to honor our survivors of the St. Mary's Indian Residential School, whose courage and resilience have led us to this moment.
A series of books about residential schools launches in Winnipeg. Good evening, I'm TR Wheatley and this is your APTN National News for Thursday, January 29. We start here in Winnipeg where a by-election for the Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs has been underway this afternoon. An interim leader has been in place since September when the late Kathy Merrick died suddenly while on the job. The new Grand Chief is speaking now. She's joining us live from the venue.
Style of leadership for myself, I want to be able to work with everybody. I want to be able to work with all levels of government. I welcome that collaboration, but I also want to ensure that, different levels of government are respecting our needs as First Nations people.
We heard over the past 2 days lots of talk about the late Grand Chief Kathy Merrick, the work that she's done, and certainly her death is still felt. How are you feeling, taking on this work that she started and carrying it forward? And you stood with her on many issues, and she's going to be in here to move forward on the work that she started.
I had a really great connection with her late Grand Chief, and she was a strong leader, and I want to be able to honor, that legacy that she left behind at the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, and I still feel connected, to her and the work that we were able to do together, and so I will carry on, the work that she started, but I will also make sure that I'm able to do the work that was asked of me by the Chiefs. Yeah.
What kind of message do you have for First Nations people in Manitoba who are now looking at you as Grand Chief?
Well, I just want to say, to everyone that, is listening, our people, First Nations people, but just everyone, I don't take this position lightly. It's an honor to stand here today as the Grand Chief for Assembly Manitoba Chiefs, and I will work hard for our people, and I'm very persistent, and I won't stop until the work gets done.
What do you think it says that the leadership in Manitoba has back-to-back now chosen female leaders to lead the organization and advocate on behalf of communities?
Well, just thinking about our leadership and the direction that they want to take with the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. We had our late Grand Chief, female leadership, very strong in her role. And, it's an honor to be here again, in our leadership space and to be able to do this work as our Grand Chief. And, I just feel very honored that they picked me to be the Grand Chief. And I guess that speaks to, the person that they wanted in that role, and male or female, I do believe that I have the qualities to be able to do this work, and that's why they elected me today. So I just want to say miigwech for that.
Earlier today we heard from members of the Youth Council share their perspectives. I was wondering if you could talk a bit about how you plan to center the voices of youth through the AMC.
Well, we are all youth at one point, and we're always learning and watching the people around us, our mentors and the people that inspire us. And I just think about when I was a youth and I was watching our leadership, and I was in these spaces and I was learning from them. And I want to be able to do that for them as well. I want to be able to work with our youth, provide any mentorship, and just share the teachings that I've learned along my way.
now representing 63 communities with AMC, how important is collaboration going to be going forward for AMC?
Collaboration is
That was the newly elected AMC Grand Chief taking live questions at the venue. We'll have more on that tomorrow. Staying with the AMC gathering, Sierra Bettens also spoke with the outgoing interim Grand Chief Betsy Kennedy, who is also the current chief of War Lake First Nation in northern Manitoba. Here's that interview.
Thanks, TR. So we're here at the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs election, where 63 leaders from First Nations across Manitoba will be voting on their next Grand Chief. And right now I'm joined by Acting Grand Chief Betsy Kennedy, who will be answering a couple questions about, her experience as Grand Chief. So Grand Chief, to start off, what has been the most rewarding aspect of serving as Acting Grand Chief?
It has been really busy, and I just want to say that I'm honored that the Chiefs of Manitoba had, for me to step in and to have continue on the legacy and what the late Grand Chief Kathy Merrick had wanted to do, and those are many issues that we had to do with our children, with our women and our and the families, and that she worked so hard to advocate for the families, and that these with the families, they were her heart, and she worked so hard to wanting to help them and to create that awareness on what we needed to do for our children and our community, and that if we continue on, that we continued on to the next Grand Chief. And it's been it's been a hard work and very busy, and that it's been rewarding, very rewarding in having to have to help our members and our chiefs, and and what we need to do for treating and bringing awareness and creating a better life.
And what are some of the issues that you think are important for the next Grand Chief to focus on?
Well, especially right now, George Principle, I know that the Chiefs have been very concerned with that it's not being followed, because at the creation of George Principle, it was there for our children, to making sure that they get the services that they need, and that these services are impacting in our communities, because we don't have those same privileges, and that these issues is very important, and we will continue to work on those, and I'm sure that the next Grand Chief will do what we need to do in the area of George Principle.
Yeah, and to close, with the new incoming Grand Chief, do you have any advice that you'd share with them in, coming into this role and serving?
I know that the role of Grand Chief has always been very busy, and that you have many issues to come forward, and that they meet. One of the things is that they have to meet with the leadership on what changes we want. And it's not just in the provincial level, but nationally, to bring on what we need to do for our communities, and that we continue on, and the next Grand Chief will work hard into doing that. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks so much, Acting Grand Chief Betsy Kennedy, and congratulations on, your service in this role. Back to you in studio.
Thanks, Sierra. The third annual Indigenous Federal, Provincial, Territorial meeting on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls got underway in Ottawa on Wednesday morning. The two-day meeting is being co-chaired by Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Gary Ananda-Sangari and New Brunswick Minister for Women's Equality and Seniors Lynn Chantal Boudreau. Another co-chair is Hilda Anderson-Piers of the National Family and Survivors Circle. She had this to say during opening remarks.
For me, as an Indigenous woman who's been championing gender issues for over 25 years, often, it feels hopeless, but I feel hopeful that there is a table dedicated to solely focusing on the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And by being here and being present, we have a very sacred responsibility to ensure that we do what we can collectively, to change our stories and to change outcomes.
Megan Gallagher was reported missing from Saskatoon in 2020. 2 years later, her remains were found along the South Saskatchewan River near the town of St. Louis. In all, 9 people were charged with various offenses in connection with Megan's death, including murder, manslaughter, forcible confinement, and doing an indignity to human remains. So far, 5 of these cases have been closed, 2 people are awaiting sentence, and 2 more are still awaiting trial. A publication ban was imposed on all evidence given at trial to prevent the juries involved from being prejudiced. Last week, the Saskatoon Star-Phoenix and the CBC asked the court to lift the ban. After hearing arguments from all sides, King's Bench Justice Mona Davell reserved her decision, which she will deliver before February 6th. We want to hear what you think. Here's how to continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to our website, aptnnews.ca. You can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Time for a short break. When we come back, we will tell you about a renaming of an Athabasca-named mountain in Alaska that has locals shaking their heads. See you soon. Welcome back. A group of residential school survivors and some of their supporters were at the Canadian Human Rights Museum in Winnipeg to launch a series of books called Kadagoging, meaning grave or returning to the earth in Anishinaabe Muwin. Tyler Shingus has more on that.
They gathered at the Canadian Museum of Human Rights in Winnipeg to honor the survivors of St. Mary's Indian Residential School with the launch of a book series called Kadagoging.
We're here to officially launch our book. And what it is, it's in a 4-part series to make up the book as a whole. And it was all the work from our survivors that attended St. Mary's Indian Residential School in my community of Wajishwanigam. That was in operations from 1897 to 1972.
One survivor spoke about the importance of acknowledging the past in hopes to avoid repeating the same mistakes in the future.
We speak this truth, so history cannot be forgotten or denied, and so it will never happen again. We wrote these books as a first step towards reclaiming what was taken: our language, our culture, our health and well-being, our identity, our land and our families.
The launch of Kadagoging marks a milestone in Canada's efforts towards reconciliation.
Today we gather to honor our survivors of the St. Mary's Indian Residential School, whose courage and resilience have led us to this moment. It is a moment of truth, remembrance, and commitment to a path forward. The launch of the Kadagoging book marks an incredible milestone in our community's healing journey.
The survivors were joined by a drum group, dancers, and Manitoba's Premier, Wab Kinew, whose father went to St. Mary's Indian Residential School.
And so these experiences and these stories and these difficult narratives that have been handed down to us need to be preserved, because there is a truth there, and there is something that really, really needs to be preserved for the understanding of future generations, not just in our community, but for all Canadians.
For APTN News, I'm Tyler Shingus in Winnipeg.
Thanks, Tyler. What's in a name? Well, according to Alaskans, a lot. That's because newly elected United States President Donald Trump is getting rid of a traditional name of a beloved feature of the Alaskan landscape and replacing it with that of a former U.S. president. As Sarah Connors tells us, the new name is being met with a lot of resistance from those within the state. Here's that story.
And we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs.
President Trump made a lot of promises during his inauguration address last week, including renaming this mountain in south central Alaska. Its name is Denali, which means the High One or the Great One in Athabaskan. At more than 20,000 feet, it's the highest mountain peak in North America. But Trump vowed to ditch Denali's traditional name for Mount McKinley, a name that honors William McKinley, the 25th U.S. president. McKinley, who is from Ohio, never set foot in Alaska.
President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman.
That name change is rubbing many Alaskans the wrong way. A prospector called Denali Mount McKinley in 1896. That name became official in 1915. It was changed back to its original name by President Barack Obama in 2015.
I think it's just so messed up, and obviously I'm fully against it.
Josephine Jones is an Alaskan tribal member and cultural advocate. She feels Trump is disregarding a name that is sacred to the Dena'ina people.
Deep down, I really think that the whole change was not done for the Dena'ina at all. I don't even think the president even knows who we are or cares.
The name change is even receiving pushback from Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski. She said in a statement, "You can't improve upon the name that Alaskans, Koyukon Athabascans bestowed on North America's tallest peak, Denali, the Great One. This is an issue that should not be relitigated." As President Trump has the authority to change federal geographical names within the U.S., legislation is currently being drafted to change Denali's name on federal maps and administrative policy. But none of that matters to Jones. She says she'll continue to call Denali by what she feels is its rightful name.
You know, and again, it's just a name in the end, but it is a recognition of our people.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Time for another break. When we come back, Tina House will tell you about some games coming to British Columbia for wounded war veterans. Stay right there. Wow, welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Andy Majelski sent in this shot of the wolf moon that was seen earlier in the month of January. Andy enjoyed the view from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and we want to say thanks for sharing. Remember, send your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be featured as our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, St. John's -6, Charlottetown -3. Nain -14, Happy Valley Goose Bay -16. Quebec City -14, Val-d'Or -12. North Bay -3, Sault Ste. Marie -2. Big Trout Lake -25, Kapuskasing -9. Churchill -25, Thompson -26. Dauphin -4, Winnipeg -3. North Battleford -3, Swift Current -2. Uranium City -27, La Ronge -1. Over in High Level -15, Peace River -8. Edmonton 1 degree, Calgary +9. Bella Coola 4 degrees, Kamloops 0. Fort Nelson -20, Prince Rupert +1. Old Crow -30, Mayo -19. Norman Wells -24, Fort Simpson -21. Tuktoyaktuk -22, Colville Lake -27. Cambridge Bay -27, Chesterfield -34. Iqaluit -19, Resolute -33. The Invictus Games was started by Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, in 2014, and this year Vancouver Whistler will be hosting. Wounded war veterans will be competing in various sports, and the medals were unveiled at a press conference today. APTN's Tina House was there and has this story.
And today, they unveiled the medals that feature an Indigenous design by Levi Nelson.
Yeah, so we have the ancestral eye, or the eye of the creator, here in the middle. This is the segment of a war paddle, and it has the cross hatching. The triangular design here and the wave at the bottom you'll find in our traditional wool blankets, sometimes in baskets, but rarely. And of course the I Am, which is the slogan of the Invictus Games.
CEO Scott Moore says the 4 host First Nations will play an essential role.
Part of what you'll see over the next 9 days is the full integration of the visual identity that was developed for the Games by the 4 host nations that we're working with. We're so proud of this visual identity and so proud of the look and feel of these medals. They're simply gorgeous. You'll see competitors who are on their healing journey. Their performances are not high-level Olympic performances, but they are striving to do their best and to heal.
Canadian war veteran Patrick Levis served 30 years in the military and suffers from PTSD from a deployment in Afghanistan, and he's also a cancer survivor.
When I underwent surgery, I woke up from surgery with a disability, mobility disability, which I thought that was the end of my life because sports had always been important, and I was scared. I didn't know what I would be able to do with this disability.
It was after rehab that he found out about the Invictus Games.
I said, I gotta compete. I need this to push myself to get better and to prove myself that, or to find my identity again.
After competing at the Invictus Games in 2022, Patrick Levis won 4 gold medals, 1 silver and 1 bronze.
So going out into the world will be awarded to soldiers and the competitors in the games, and I think to have my design around their necks and also the traditional designs of my ancestral artists is paramount.
That's some beautiful Nietzsche designs. And that's all the time we have for this Thursday, January 29. From all of us here at APTN, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes, Egase, Gitom, Kawapamittananaw. Thank you for watching. Tomorrow, Dennis Ward will be back here at the desk. Mino, Tipiskisi. Good night.